Imagine a rugby match so ferocious, so unthinkably violent, that 5 players were taken to the hospital afterwards. A match where a senior player was shown a yellow card for eye gouging within the first minute. This wasn't some back alley brawl or a forgotten amateur game. This was the second test of the 2009 British and Irish Lions tour to South Africa, a clash of titans in Pretoria. And for 80 minutes, it wasn't a game, it was a war. But what if I told you that in all that chaos and brutality, a single, emotional moment decided the entire series? A moment that was both a triumph and a tragedy, or all at the same time. The question isn't whether this was the most violent match in rugby history. That's a debate for the purists. The real question is, after all the blood, sweat, and rage, was the true cost of this match even greater than the physical pain? And who paid the ultimate price? To understand why this match became a war, you need to go back to 2005. The British and Irish Lions, rugby's most prestigious touring team, had just suffered the most humiliating defeat in their 120-year history. A 3-0 series whitewash in New Zealand. That left the famous red jersey in tatters. The 2009 tour to South Africa wasn't just about rugby, it was about redemption, about proving that the Lions jersey still meant something. But South Africa had other plans. Loftus Versfeld in Pretoria, over 4,400 feet above sea level, a fortress where the Springboks rarely lose. The Lions had already fallen behind 1-0 in the series, after a brutal 26-21 defeat in the first test. Now, with their backs against the wall, they faced a simple reality. Lose this match, and the series was over. What they didn't know was that this wouldn't just be a rugby match, it would be a battle that would leave careers in ruins and rewrite the laws of the game itself. The build-up to this second test was unlike anything rugby had seen. The Lions made a desperate gamble. They picked their most experienced pack, led by 35-year-old Simon Shaw, finally earning his first Lions test cap. But the real story was happening off the pitch. Lions prop Adam Jones later recalled the journey to the stadium, and he says, "The atmosphere was toxic. The crowd was baying for blood." June 27, 2009, 50,000 fans packed into Loftus Versfeld. The Lions, wearing their famous red jerseys, ready to salvage their tour. The Springboks, in green and gold, smelling blood in the water. Referee Christophe Berdos blows his whistle. The ball goes up. And then, 32 seconds. Schalkberger makes contact with Lions winger Luke Fitzgerald's eye. The cameras capture it in graphic detail. Touch judge Bryce Lawrence flags it immediately. Berdos has no choice. Yellow card. Many felt it should have been a red card. The Lions certainly did. But this was just the beginning. Within minutes, another brawl erupted. Brian O'Driscoll and Victor Matfield squaring off, bringing nearly every player on the field into a massive melee. The tone was set. This wasn't going to be rugby, this was going to be war. But here's where the story takes an unexpected turn. Despite the chaos, the Lions began to do something remarkable. They started winning. Not just winning, but dominating in the one area where South Africa prided themselves most. For years, the Springbok forwards had been the benchmark. Their scrum was a weapon of mass destruction. But on this day, the Lions pack began to outmuscle the Springboks in their own backyard. Stephen Jones, the Lions fly half, was clinical. Penalty after penalty, sailed between the posts, first 3-0, then Rob Kearney finished off a scintillating attack for a brilliant try, 10-0 to the Lions. The fortress was under siege. When Berger returned from his sin bin at 11 minutes, the Lions fans booed him mercilessly. South Africa clawed back with a try from J.P. Peterson. Then, in the 34th minute, a drop goal that seemed to put the match beyond doubt. Halftime, 16-8 to the Lions. Everything was going to plan. The scrum was dominant. Jones was perfect with the boot. The series was back on track. But rugby, like life, has a way of punishing overconfidence. And what was about to happen in the second half would be remembered as one of the most catastrophic moments in Lions history. The second half began like the first had ended, with the Lions in control. But then came the 46th minute, and everything changed in an instant. In a single passage of play, both Lions starting props were destroyed. Gethin Jenkins, fractured cheekbone in a head clash. Adam Jones, shoulder dislocated by a Bakkies Botha ruck clear-out. Both tour-ending injuries, both in the same play. But here's what made this moment so devastating. The referee was forced to call uncontested scrums for the rest of the match. The momentum shift was immediate and brutal. Brian Habana scored first, cutting the deficit. The Lions' lead was evaporating, and there was nothing they could do about it. As the match entered its final quarter, the brutality reached new levels. The Lions were dropping like flies. Brian O'Driscoll, the Lions captain, arguably the greatest centre ever to play the game, lined up Springbok replacement Dani Rossouw. The collision was seismic. The hit left both men dazed. Rossouw staggered and fell again from the force. He couldn't continue. But O'Driscoll, showing the heart of a lion, got back to his feet. Played on with a concussion. By the 74th minute, the Lions were hanging on, leading 22-18. They needed something special, but instead, controversy struck. Jacques Fourie scored in the corner after what seemed like an eternity of TMO review. Try or no try, the television match official deliberated for an inordinately long time. Finally, the decision, try. Steyn converted the difficult kick, 25-22 to South Africa, their first lead of the game. The fortress was alive, the comeback complete, but Stephen Jones, showing nerves of steel, had one more moment of magic, a penalty with 2 minutes remaining. He slots it, 25-25. The series is still alive, but then came the moment that would define this match forever. Draw would keep the Lions series hopes alive. All they had to do was not give away a penalty. Instead, replacement fly-half Ronan O'Gara, head wrapped in a bloodied bandage after taking punishment all tour, made the kind of decision that haunts players forever. O'Gara chose an up and under. The ball went high, and O'Gara, desperately trying to regather his own kick, took the South African out in the air. Penalty to South Africa, in front of the posts, 53 meters out, with the series on the line. The stadium fell silent. Step forward, Morné Steyn, 24 years old, playing only his second test match. The weight of a nation on his shoulders, the distance of a lifetime between him and the posts. This was the moment everything had been building toward. 4 years of Lions humiliation, 80 minutes of brutal rugby, careers ending, bodies breaking, and now it all came down to this. One kick, 53 meters. Steyn strikes it clean. The ball sails through the air. 50,000 people holding their breath. Series over, 28-25 to South Africa. The Lions' dreams lay in ruins once again. When the final whistle blew, the human cost became clear. The Lions had fielded a team that looked more like a scene from ER than a rugby team. 4 players, tour-ending injuries, the medical room resembling a field hospital. But the controversy was only just beginning. Within 24 hours, the sighting commissioner had been busy. Schalk Burger, charged with making contact with the eye area. Bakkies Botha, cited for the dangerous clear-out that dislocated Adam Jones's shoulder. Burger received an 8-week ban, reduced from 12 for good character. Many felt it wasn't enough, but the Botha case sparked something unprecedented in rugby history. The judicial panel found Botha guilty of a dangerous charge, banned him for 2 weeks. The reaction from the South African camp was explosive. Captain John Smit called the ruling insane and ludicrous. But here's the twist nobody saw coming. The injured player himself defended Botha. This split between the judicial system and the players' code of honor led to something rugby had never seen before. A player-led protest during an international match. The third test, July 4th, 2009. Ellis Park, Johannesburg. The series already decided, but as the Springboks took the field, something was different. Every South African player wore a white armband with 2 words, "Justice for Bakkies." It was unprecedented. Players publicly protesting a judicial decision during an international rugby match. The International Rugby Board was not amused. They investigated the protest for bringing the game into disrepute, fined the South African team and management, but the damage was done. If you applied today's rugby laws to that 2009 match, the outcome would have been completely different. And that raises the ultimate question. Fans say, I've learned that if the rules of today were applied to that game, it would have been very different. Burger would have seen red. O'Driscoll wouldn't have come back on. O'Gara wouldn't have been allowed to stay on after that head knock. We probably would have had a different result. And they're right. Under modern head injury protocols, at least 3 Lions players wouldn't have been allowed to return. Burger would have been sent off immediately. The game has evolved. The rules have changed to protect players. But back in 2009, rugby was a different world. And in that world, the Lions paid the price. In the end, the 2009 Lions tour was remembered not for victory, but for violence. A match where nearly every player left the field, battered, bruised, or broken. A match that ended in protest. A match that forced rugby to confront its darker side. But perhaps most of all, A match that showed the spirit of the game. Because despite the chaos, despite the brutality, despite the defeat, the Lions and their fans never stopped believing. And 4 years later, in 2013, they would get their redemption. A 2-1 series win in Australia, proving that the jersey still meant something. But for those who watched the second test of 2009, one question will always remain. Was this the most violent match in rugby history?